Hey everybody, my name is Roger.
I'm Felipe.
I'm Tracy.
So, here we are with our Season 7, Episode 4 discussion of Game of Thrones with our newest member, Tracy. Tracy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Tracy. And
That's all we need to know.
that's it.
All right,
Basically,
so
let's just keep the ball rolling.
I'm going to get right into it. Guys, this was a pretty crazy episode. It gave me, and I believe it gave the entire watching community, everything that we wanted.
Ooh, so much.
Yep. So, what are your thoughts so far?
So, my thoughts on the whole episode is I loved the pacing. I loved how we just went from, like, I really don't know how to explain it in any words other than saying that this episode was what I've been waiting for the entire season. The entirety of the show is what I've been waiting for, all in one episode. It's beautiful.
Tracy?
I really enjoyed it. I liked how they used their timing so well. Like they didn't have a problem with putting just excessive time in certain things. Like when Arya gets to, Winterfell, how they just had that long, she's just taking it in. Or when, at the end, the dragons are coming, but you're like, there's that long thing of what's going to show up because you hear the Dothraki and you think that she might be bringing a dragon, but there's just all that. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, it was the Dothraki. And then, there's that even longer anticipation. It's like, oh, wait, no.
The funny thing about that you guys mentioned, this whole timing thing, is that this was the shortest episode of the entire series.
That is true.
So,
it wasn't even an hour. It's 57 minutes.
So, I mean, that whole thing, time flies when you're having fun. Yeah, we had lots of fun. So we open up with, who was it? The Lannisters and the Tarleys, right? They had just finished their raid.
Right.
And then Jaime was sending Bronn to get more resources from the farmers, the nearby farmers. Bronn is still complaining about not having a castle, right? So when will he get his castle? We don't know. I'm sure that, as we talk about the end of the episode, he might get his castle that he's always wanted, because that man is
I
he's
feel
a
like
hero.
after this episode, he kind of deserves it.
He earned his castle.
For sure. And then we jump to King's Landing and the Red Keep with Cersei talking to the homie from the Iron Bank. Iron Bank is saying, so we appreciate that you, as a Lannister, are finally paying your debt. And this is, I think he said this is the fastest that anybody has ever paid what they owed to the Iron Bank.
An amount that large. In one installment, yeah.
And then the other thing is that I believe it was Qyburn that said that he had already contacted people from the Golden Company to fight on Cersei's behalf because of the riches that she just got. So the cool thing about the Golden Company for book readers, non-book readers, is the Golden Company is basically like a league of assassins and mercenaries, right? So they're basically sellswords that they fight for whoever can pay them.
Like the highest bidder type of
Yeah,
thing.
the highest bidder. So I think this might be Cersei's answer to the whole Dothraki problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, it was Cersei's answer until,
Well, until she actually finds out how big a problem the Dothraki are.
Yeah, because the Dothraki just went through the Lannister army. Not a lot of problems, even with the exception of the dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's the fact that Cersei is counting on all this money. Like, it's one of those, don't count your eggs before they hatch type of thing. Like, she's like, oh, he has all this money. He's personally seeing that it comes back to me. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think they did say, though, that the gold made it back.
Yeah,
the gold
was the first
thing. The gold
thing
made it back, but the food is what was burned, and that's the whole scare tactic in the whole thing of war, right? So you take away their provisions and the resources, and then it's like, what are we fighting for? You know what I mean? Right. We're gonna die anyway, so why do we die fighting for somebody who we don't like?
One of the best ways to win a war, you cut off economy. Well, they got the gold, so you can't cut that off. Cut off the food. No food, how you feed the army?
Yeah.
Start a rebellion from the inside.
And as we saw with the Ed Sheeran episode, these people don't even like Cersei. They're just fighting, and you could even tell that how they were, they were in line at the ready with the shields and the spears, but they were shaking. They were literally shaking in their boots.
Then again, it's not even the fact that they don't like Cersei. It's the fact that they've never seen a dragon, and they've never fought the Dothraki. They just know that they're these uncivilized,
like savages.
Well, and like we saw with Dickon, a lot of these kids haven't even been to an actual fight, to an actual battle. So this is their first real taste of war, and it's not what they expect.
I love Bronn's reaction though. It's like, oh, everybody's accepted that Dickon is a name, and then he's like, "What's your name, Rickon?" Dickon. He's like,
and the first thing you say,
face.
he goes,
yeah,
that's the laugh. He goes,
It's very Braun of him.
He's like,
He's looking at Jamie like, you think this is funny too? And Jamie's like, stop it.
Yeah, he's got to be the general that he is, yeah.
Right.
So then after that, we move on to Winterfell. Arya's back.
Bro.
And I think she has some sort of, like, vendetta against guards at the gate. Because this is, like, the third time that she's been turned away by guards. Because the first time was in season 1. Whenever, I think she had to, like, crawl away through, like, the pipes, so she was out, and she comes back all
like
dirty.
King's Landing?
Yeah, to King's Landing, and he's like, yeah, my dad is Ned Stark. You need to let me through before I beat you. And now she actually can beat somebody. That's the thing. Before, she was just a feisty little tomboy, and now she's, like, this full-fledged Winterfell ninja, you know? So she's back. She has she gets reunited with Sansa.
Which was a great reunion.
Reunion, yes, yes. I almost shed a tear.
Really?
I will be honest. I almost shed a tear. Just because they bicker so much and they have that relationship of I hate you, but I still love you because we're related. Right. And now it's like they're fully embracing each other's experiences because they both went through some pretty gnarly shit to get to the point that they're at right
For me, it wasn't that part that made me a little more, sentimental or whatever. For me, it was the part where she's sitting down when the guards are like, sit there, And she's sitting there, she's just looking at everything. And she sees that it's different, but at the same time, she's home, And I thought that was filmed great because they took a long pause between when they're going back and forth. No, you go tell Lady Stark. No, you go tell, And she's just like taking it all in, like it gets to the point. They took so long bickering that she took off because she had to go see the crypt. So it's like the fact that she's home. That was that got me.
And I thought it was really cool that Sansa was like, no, it's cool. I know where she's at. And then immediately she knows where to go.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And actually, we got an answer to our question.
Really?
Remember we were talking about we don't know if she's going to go to King's Landing or go back to Winterfell? Well, she's back at Winterfell.
We got our answer.
So, and we also got another answer to another question that we had is how is that dagger going to come back? We got the dagger.
Boom, Littlefinger being like the little like a-hole that he is.
Speaking of Littlefinger, I love the fact that Littlefinger the entire season, or even before that, he's been trying to take advantage of Sansa. And you finally get the answer that like Sansa acknowledges the fact that he's taking advantage of her, or like he's trying, because she goes to Bran and she's like, where did you get that? And he's like, oh, Littlefinger gave it to me. And she's like, he never gives you anything that he doesn't if he doesn't expect something in return. So I love that she's perfectly aware of the fact that he is,
he's been like a manipulator.
He's very manipulative, and she's on guard about him. So I appreciated that because that's where he thinks his in is with Sansa.
I don't think he took into account in his little game a Winterfell ninja and a three-eyed raven. So, and that brings me to the next point is I appreciated that little interaction between Littlefinger and Bran when Littlefinger thinks that he can be even a bigger creep than Bran. So they're sitting there eyeing, and he's like trying to toy and talk and like manipulate his way into people's hearts. Yeah. And sure enough, that's not happening right now. And then Bran just hits him with "Chaos is a ladder," a quote that Littlefinger had said to Sansa before Bran had got there. So how else would Bran know what Littlefinger said? And once he said that, Littlefinger's face completely changed.
I feel like Littlefinger is gonna see how big of a problem Bran is gonna be, because not only did Bran see everything that happened during Sansa's wedding, he also like told Arya, he's like, I know about your list. A list that she's only mentioned to like 2 people at this point. She's mentioned it to 3 people. She's mentioned it to the No-Face God. She's mentioned it to the Hound, and she's mentioned it to Sansa. 3 people know about her list, and then here's Bran like, oh, it's meant for one of the people on her list.
Didn't she mention it's a Gentry too, or Gentry, or
Gentry?
Yeah.
Well, she did, but I think he just took it as like as a joke. He was like, ha.
Well, I think everybody takes it as a joke. When she told Sansa about it, Sansa at first was like, oh, okay, when they were down in the crypt.
Same thing with Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ed Sheeran.
Well, she didn't mention the list. She just said, oh, I'm going to go kill
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. Like, everybody, she says these things to these people, and they're like, oh, you're just, you.
Yeah, I don't think Sansa believed her until they were in
the
tree. When they were with Bran, and she's like, well, why would you go to King's Landing? And then he's like, oh, Cersei's on her list. And then Sansa's
usually
like,
Sansa
it's for real.
Like, this is for realsies.
Yeah.
I think Sansa's scared of Arya.
I did say for realsies, yeah.
I think Sansa's scared of Arya.
Yeah, like she's scared of everybody now because she's the only normal one.
Well, not so much that. Like,
I don't think she's scared as much as she's like realizing everything that Arya's had to live through. Like, she knows that she went through a lot.
Yeah.
And she knows that, Bran went through a lot. And, 2 of her brothers are dead. And she was, I think she was more hoping that Arya hadn't been through as much as she went through. But I think seeing her fight and hearing about her list and all of that, when she saw Arya fight, she's like, man, this girl's had to defend herself against God knows what if she can fight this way, So I don't think she's as much, like, scared as she is, I don't know.
I would say surprised.
Yeah.
Surprised. Because, I mean, everybody went through everything, right? And then Bran comes back not as Bran as he used to be,
Yeah.
right?
He's on, like, the boyish,
He's all seeing into the past, the future, He's complete emo Bran,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then Arya, the Winterfell ninja, Stark ninja, Winterfell ninja, whatever you want to call her. And then Sansa, who's become this master manipulator through her own right. You know what I mean? So, I mean, comparing the three, she's the most normal, but look at her seeing how everybody's changed. It's like, okay, it's kind of like we need to touch base and see how much we've changed and how we can use each other's abilities to the best of our advantage. Because before she realized that Littlefinger was using her, right? And now Littlefinger thinks he has Sansa wrapped around his finger. Not the case. So Sansa is going to try and get rid of Littlefinger, I think, somehow. And because she has an all-seeing being, she's going to try and use Bran to the best of her advantage.
That's true. I can see that.
I think Bran's gonna be, like you said, like, huge here because nobody still has any idea what Littlefinger's end purpose is. We know that he has an end purpose because that's the type of person he is. We know he doesn't help anyone without wanting something in return, but we don't know what he wants. And I think that's gonna be important for Bran because it's just he's the only one that could possibly know.
What I find really interesting is, oh my gosh, oh yeah. So I don't know if anybody else peeped this or if this is just me. So whenever Sansa saw Bran, Sansa was the one who like embraced Bran. Bran didn't really hug her back, but he hugged Arya back. Did anybody else notice that?
Oh, he was just kind of like...
Yeah,
the
that was like the
one-arm
closest thing
yeah.
like he's got to some type of like emotion. Because even with that girl that left him.
Oh, Mira?
Yeah, Mira,
Rick.
like, he was, bro, like...
That was like the craziest one-night stand diss that I've ever seen.
I told you, bro, him and Lady Olenna tie for the Savage of the Year, bro. Because she was like, I almost died for you. Hodor, Summer, they've died for you. And all he says is...
Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, like, thanks.
Yeah.
Like, then he says thank you. Like, he didn't say thank you before.
What?
Ridiculous.
I think kind of like with the direwolves, like every time one of the direwolves dies, part of the Stark children die, So I think when Summer died at the same time, that was the day that, Bran also lost the last part of what was Bran, and he just fully embraced being the three-eyed raven. You see it with when Sansa's lady, when she died, that was the last day of Sansa's real innocence. That's when she was like, oh, I want to marry Joffrey, blah blah blah.
She didn't know what she was getting herself into.
She didn't know what she was getting herself into. Nymeira's still alive. Ghost is still alive. All the other ones are dead, just like the Stark children. Some could argue that Bran, like him, is dead. Because he's just a three-eyed raven.
Yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do with what's going on with Bran getting back to Winterfell.
Okay, so moving forward from Winterfell, we go on to Dragonstone. Things are going down at Dragonstone too because Jon has the worst and the best luck in caves. And we find him again in a cave with a beautiful woman, and people are wanting things to work out.
You know what's funny? Sir Davos peeped that. Sir Davos was peeping the game, and he's a student of it. He said, he's like, what do you think of her? And he's like, what do you mean her?
She has a big heart.
He's like, you know what I mean. And you seem to be staring at that big heart a lot.
Yeah.
I would be staring at that big heart too.
But let's go back to the cave, right?
Yeah,
so
it's more like a peach
they
though.
they walked in there. They walked as a cavern, right? So anyway, they walk into the hole in the wall of the mountain, and he's going to show her the Mountain of Dragonglass, right? So he's like, okay, cool. Here's this. But what I really want to show you is off to the right. So if you're following me, they go and they see the cave paintings, and it's cave paintings from the First Men and the Children of the Forest, right? And then you see the White Walkers on there.
Yeah.
So that's his way of confirming that the White Walkers exist with Daenerys. So now she is aware that even her ancestors had to face this threat, and the threat is very much real. So how do you think this power play is going to go?
I'm more curious on how John's gonna react when she comes back, because one thing that, all right, so I actually had this conversation with a coworker of mine. My coworker thinks that Daenerys is gonna be another form of Cersei and the Mad King, mainly due to the fact that she's using the dragons, which honestly, me personally, just the way that she uses the dragons, I don't think she'll be that way, just due to the fact that it's war. She used the dragons on an army, not a village. You see what I'm saying? And that was one of the things that John had mentioned to her. He's like, if you use those things, you're no better than the rest of them. So I'm curious what his stance would be on the fact that she used Drogo. And on top of that, she's got to realize the fact that her dragons aren't as invincible as she thinks. Because Drogon took a spear to like the shoulder, what it seemed like.
Much like Drogo took a wound to the shoulder.
This is true. So I'm just saying, if Drogon dies, I'm gonna be super upset, and like I'm gonna just have all those feelings just reoccur.
One of my worries is, were those poison tipped spears? You know,
That's interesting.
because granted, like the same poison that affects humans might not affect the dragon because they're reptilian. We don't know how the cold blood works. There's a lot of variables to take into.
I think they were just counting on the brute force of the spears, because when Cersei was like did it shattered the skull of the dragon that was there.
And that was one of my major issues with it. I thought that whole scene was stupid because the skull was hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
It was sitting still. It was point blank range.
And it didn't have the dragon scales on top of it that protects
the armor basically. And then you have this freaking thing flying, and then Bronn is struggling to try and like aim for it.
Yeah, I think they like underestimated the dragons.
Yeah, of course,
definitely.
for sure. But now it's interesting to see how that one weapon was revealed, right? So now you have Daenerys, who's aware that they have weapons to shoot the dragons in midair.
Which pissed her off.
How
was
is she
beautiful.
was upset. Yes.
I love how they did. Like, she was genuinely pissed that they had shot this at her dragon. But I think that just shows kind of like, you know, how the Starks have their connection with their wolves. Daenerys and her dragons, like, you know, when she was on there, she was genuinely pissed. And when she's over there struggling to get that spear out of Drogon, you see Drogon not even be fazed by it and like turn to protect her.
Yeah.
Versus when Jaime's like, you know, launching toward her.
It was stupid.
Awesome.
You know, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because this just really shows that to Daenerys, these are her children. Like,
Yeah, these are her
they're in the
babies.
middle of a war zone, right? She knows she's at a war zone. She just brought the war to them. And here she is getting off the dragon, and she wants to get this thing out. Not to just use it to just lay waste to the remaining army. She's like, this hurt my son, because she keeps calling them her children. This hurt my son.
She's
she
the
gets
mother
off.
of dragons.
Exactly. So she's like I have to get this out of you. This is hurting you. It's almost like the mouse and the lion. Like when the thorn, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was just I thought it was beautiful to show that human side of her. And I think that in the middle of Jaime like deciding like what to do, like to run away, to grab the spear, he saw that he was like she's in my
open.
mind, I think he perceived it as like
She
she
has a
cares. Like she has a weakness.
She has a weakness, and it's her
because she
dragons.
cares for these dragons. But you know, speaking of the whole speaking of the whole like she's defending her kids, who decides to ruin that moment? None other than Jaime himself, the Knight of Knights.
And I had something to say about that. So, like, I don't know if you remember in season 1 when, what's his name, Robert brings in Sir Barristan and Jaime to talk about their first kills. And he starts talking about that one Tarly boy that tried to, like, lunge at him head first. And he was like, that one dude who thought he could end the war with one
lunge.
With one blow, one lunge. Didn't happen that way. And
Same.
here Jaime is finding himself in the same situation, thinking that he can end a war with just one shot. And did not go as
One shot,
expected.
one opportunity, Eminem.
Mom spaghetti.
Ooh.
All that good stuff.
I don't know if he just underestimated the dragon, or if he thought that he was gonna beat the dragon to it, killing himself, you know? Like, maybe he thought, I'm gonna die right now because the dragon might, you know, swap me a wing or turn around and roast me alive. He can't possibly be underestimating the dragon right now because of the fact that he just saw the dragon take out all of these people.
True.
So I don't know if he underestimated the dragon, or he was like, as this dragon turns to me, I'm still gonna kill her. You know? So maybe it was like one of those like...
Yeah, because the dragon turns and he just looks like a deer in the headlights. He's like, I'm still going, but
Like he's still going.
I'm terrified.
So could we chalk that down to Jamie's militant mind, like his militant side? Like here he is, a soldier trained for war. If you have a shot, take it. If you have to risk your life for your faction, do it. You know what I mean? Could we chalk that down to just like war?
I mean, at that point, I think he would have gone out. Like, if he had gone out, I think it would have been like the honorable thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he saw all of his men die. Well, most of his men die. He saw the way they were tortured.
Yeah.
And burned
and
alive.
he was tortured himself too.
Yeah.
By what's his name? Rob. Whenever he was captured as a.
But see, Rob didn't even torture him.
No,
Rob
but
just kept him in a cage.
There, kept him in a cage, barely fed him.
Nah, he
Kept him
got
dirty.
really tortured whenever they tried to smuggle him back into King's Landing and they had to go through the rest of the North.
And he lost his hand. Yeah.
That was torturous.
I mean, in any case, he's been through some stuff. So, could we just chalk that up to things of war? Yeah.
I would say so.
Mm-hmm. So now the question is, when he comes back from that unbelievably deep river, because I didn't think it was that deep.
No.
I thought it was pretty shallow, and then it turns out that there's a good 50
they're
feet.
way down.
Yeah, and he's got a solid gold hand.
Well,
So
did
how
you
is
see
he
that?
gonna-
Like, the hand came off.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm like 90% sure that I saw him going down and like it was just the stump. So I'm pretty sure the hand came off. He lost his hand.
Okay,
Again.
so in any case, he's still sinking. So when he
Yeah.
comes back up, how is he going to come back up? Because I personally would like to see Drogon like sink his head into the water, scoop him up, and then bring
Eat him
out.
alive?
Not eat him alive, but just
It'd
bring
be
him
better.
out and have Danny have her way with him. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Nothing really looks that shallow, but to quote J. Cole,
Are you gonna quote J. Cole? Or?
I mean, she's shallow with the pussy. She's shallow. She's shallow.
I don't think that's the same shallow. But anyway,
I mean, it's pretty shallow.
it's not the same shallow.
I mean, you try to
It's not the same shallow.
you should try.
Somebody who's shallow is pretty shallow is Davos.
You think that was a shallow?
I think Davos is pretty shallow.
What?
Because he's always talking about how oh man, she's so pretty. And speaking of big hearts, Miss Missandei of North.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
oh, yeah, that's
And
right.
then he comes back and he's like, this is King Snow. No, that doesn't sound right. King John? I don't know. Let's keep flirting.
Right, and
Yeah.
then like they had the whole conversation about marriage,
Mhm.
and she's like, there's no point in marriage to us. We just, He's like, sounds liberating.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does.
You tell me
That's
I
like
could-
that creepy. That's Herbert. That's a heterosexual Herbert for Family Guy.
Okay, so since we're talking about attractions of some sort, back in the cave, there was some intense attractions between
that torch passing.
like
though.
that
Yeah.
aunt and nephew type of thing. I mean, it's not the first time there's incest on Game of Thrones
Or within the Targaryens.
or within the
them
Targaryens.
But John
You know?
doesn't know he's a Targaryen at this point, so I don't know.
So
And-
to him, this is all consensual, baby.
So how would y'all feel about that? Do you what are your thoughts on this whole John and Dany?
I want it to happen, but it's not gonna happen.
I don't know. I don't want it to happen. I think they both have very important roles in different places. Like, he is needed in the north, and she is needed on the throne. Like, I am all team Daenerys,
And
taking the throne.
I agree with Tracy. I'm with you too, because Game of Thrones has me cheering for aunt and nephew to bang, because I think aesthetically it would be pretty cool. Because she's good looking, he's good looking.
The reason why
you
I don't
know.
think it'll happen is because I think she'll end up being with Jorah.
Yeah, Jorah's making his way back too.
Yeah.
Jorah be like,
Yeah.
hey, look, that's my pound cake. I'm
Yep.
gonna just step off.
Because
John.
she basically told Jorah, go get yourself cured, and when you come back, there's a chance, He got cured of an incurable disease.
So now he has to take
And
that
it's
chance.
thanks to John's best friend. So John, so you know what? Sam just cock blocked John.
So who's a better wingman, Sam or Davos?
Sam is not a wingman. Sam crushed his homeboy's chance. Let's be
I
honest.
don't know, man. Sam's pretty good. Sam's pretty good
What
wingman.
does Sam do other than
If you were to have a buddy cop movie, who would you rather see, John and Davos or John and Sam? Buddy
John
cop
and Sam?
movie.
John and
John
Sam.
and
Thank
Davos.
you. Ooh, wait, hold on. So we got Die Hard and we got
Okay,
Rush Hour. Which one?
Because
I
Sam,
like what you did there.
Sam is off, he's helping John, but he's not really there with John. He's an asset, but he's not an asset when he's with John. Davos and John have that, Davos is being funny, John is being serious chemistry going. So I think that would make for better,
Okay, check this out. I think Sam is just as funny as Davos, but here's the thing, though.
I don't know.
Sam has a sixth gift, the gift of knowledge. Davos, he's got the Gora accent, so I don't know what he's gonna do other than maybe fight in a battle, but he doesn't really see a lot of action. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have John, who's a swordsman. Then you got Samuel Tully, Charlie. I don't know why I keep doing that to him. I'm so sorry. But he is good with the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
This boy knows things. Davos, I mean, he just learned how to read. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Reading
That's
is
true.
a fundamental skill in life.
Facts.
Okay?
Facts.
Okay.
Okay.
What,
I've seen both points, but back to the argument or back to the discussion. So Jon and Daenerys. Me personally, I like I said, I'm rooting for it.
Right?
I don't think it's necessary though.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you
Just-
think she's gonna find out that he is a Targaryen?
I think Bran.
Ooh. All right. One of two ways. So back in, I think it was episode 2, or this might have been last episode, where Sansa was like, something about records, and then the other Maester was like, okay, I'll look at Maester Lewin's records.
Oh, because he keeps
Because he keeps a record of every single one.
Yeah.
And in the books, Maester Lewin was one of the people that Ned Stark confided in, and he probably has a record of Jon's parenthood or ancestry, right? So if somebody finds something in those records, it could be the whole Rhaegar and Lyanna made Jon. Sansa finds out, tells the other Stark children, and then they all look at Jon differently or accept him as he is, because he's still technically Stark. He has
Because
Stark
he's
blood.
been around them their whole life.
Exactly. So that's one thing. And then Mira, who Bran so nonchalantly dismissed, she's the daughter of Howland Reed. Howland Reed was at the Tower of Joy, where Jon was born. So could Howland Reed come back and out Jon as a Targaryen?
Yeah, one copy you just put on the side.
That's I don't know.
My 2 cents is Bran already knows the truth, right? And,
Yeah.
and in order for Mira to get back, she's got to travel back to the wild.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? To the wild things. That's 2 things. And then you have Maester Lewin's records. First of all, that's a lot of records. He's mainly looking for references to winter.
Right.
Right.
But let's,
No,
let's say that
but-
he just stumbles upon a record. or
Well,
something,
yeah,
right?
there's a chance too. But I think given the situation and like the type of man that he seems to be, he's more focused on the task at hand. You know what I'm saying? Especially since Sansa gave him like a direct order. I think he'll be more focused on that. By the time Jon gets back, that's the first thing that's gonna happen. I guarantee that's my prediction. The second Jon gets back, he's gonna be outed as a Targaryen, either publicly or in confidence.
I think they might end the season with that. Because right now it seems like Jon is pretty invested in Dragonstone. Or at Dragonstone.
Well-
like holding operations there.
I thought this season was gonna be a little more slow paced. You know, like you knew Jon and Daenerys were gonna meet this season. You didn't think it was gonna happen right away, like
Yeah.
the way it did. You
Yeah.
know, stuff like that. I've had this theory going since like I found out that Jon was, you know, a Targaryen. I've thought that he somehow was gonna be burned by a dragon
And not be burned?
and not be burned.
That's what I
and
thought
then
was gonna
Daenerys
happen.
is gonna be like, "Whoa, I'm the only one that can do that." And
What's
then in the
going on here?
preview
You,
for
you see
Yes.
Drogon
you
get
see
mad
him
at
like,
Jon.
and he's
And
like
then-
right in front of Jon. I was like, it's finally happening.
As soon as I
right.
saw that, I was watching with my mom because that's what we do. We watch Game of Thrones.
Aww.
You know, so I was watching with my mom, and I saw that, and I was like, he's gonna recognize his family.
See, and you know, I'm glad you mentioned that because in history, or as far as like you know, Game of Thrones history, the only ones that could control dragons were Targaryens.
Right.
Which is also what leads my theory of Tyrion being a Targaryen because he went into the cave alone.
And the
With a
dragons,
torch.
the dragons didn't burn him.
Dragons didn't do ish.
Right.
They looked at him and was like, "All right, little man."
I mean, they screeched a little, but he was like, "It's cool."
But
I'm here to
that's
help.
like the first person they've seen in like who knows how long Danny had been gone.
Exactly.
At that point.
And they
right?
had grown significantly.
Yeah.
So it had to have been a good minute. Yep. And then
I wonder if anybody fed them though. I don't know. Like, I'm sure they had
they
to,
were
but I'm-
hungry. I mean, maybe like the occasional goat carcass that they have to share between the two. But yeah,
maybe that's why they didn't grow up to be as big.
probably, yeah. Because Drogon, he left and he was feeding on his own.
Bro, Drogon, stop
Yeah.
scared. That boy was on like an endless buffet. And you know, speaking of theories, one of our very own Kosi have an idea too. Kosi, where you at? Oh shit!
Man, making black folks appear out of nowhere. I love that.
Like that?
So, like, I think today, the one theory I had going, and I think I discussed with y'all earlier, was the fact that throughout the whole series of Game of Thrones, it's been about people doing just horrible things, and we're realizing that, like, not everybody is not black or white. It's kind of gray, and folks do horrible things. Folks do amazing, heroic things. And I thought what'll be a pretty gripping way to end the whole show would be if, at the very end, our resident bad guy Cersei is sitting in the Iron Throne. No, Daenerys doesn't achieve her dream or her goal or her life's mission of being Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. No, Cersei is on the throne and kind of sends a message like, hey, at the very end, like, she kind of still wins, but at the very end it pans back some more to reveal that the White Walkers and the Night King are outside her throne, which kind of sends, to me, it kind of sends the message that the whole 7 or 8 seasons, this lead up of people just doing all these awful things for the purpose of power, so at the very end have one of them achieve it and have it not mean anything, because at the very end what they were squabbling about and not understanding was their downfall, what was on the outside, which were the White Walkers. And I saw that as like a pretty cool, kind of cool parallel to life, you know, and how like all the time people are always arguing amongst themselves and some outside force that they never see because they're too busy with what's in front of them and the whole not being together, that they're ultimately wiped out. I know it's a kind of a downer of a theory, but you know,
it makes sense.
It's one of those that I
It's
always
a downer
thought
show. It works.
Yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool to have that be a thing.
So back to what Cozy was saying, how like you're basically a part of this bigger destiny, and it's not so much your destiny, it's the destiny of whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of like what the symbols in the cave represent, what we're talking about. One of them was like, I think it was a spiral, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of like you're on that spiral, and it's just like how history repeats itself.
It's like just a cycle.
Yeah, it's just a cycle. Either you land on the spiral or you don't, but the spiral is going to keep going, right? So either you play a part in this destiny, there's no way you can change it, but you know, you have a say in how it plays out, not necessarily, or how and when, but not necessarily what, because the what is already established. Well, Tracy, you got something to say?
Just that the spiral, like if you look at pictures of the God's Eye is also the center of the spiral, which is that spiral is going to be really important. We just don't know how.
We do have one other thing to say, guys. We
Yes.
have Game of Thrones memorabilia made by our lovely Tracy over here. And you want to go ahead and give out that handout?
What handout?
That handout, you know what I'm saying? Like where they can buy all this cool stuff.
Oh. It's a long website.
She paused
We'll
because
put
she
the
didn't want to
link
give it to you.
down there. But yeah, these mugs are really cool, guys. We got these as a gift. In any case, guys, what do you think of our theories? What are your theories? Do you have any predictions for the rest of the season? Let us know in the comment section below, and we will see y'all next week. My name is Roger.
My name is Felipe.
I'm Tracy.
And we have been the Eclectic Nerds talking about Game of Thrones. We're out.